Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite mental models, radical candor. Now, mental models are great for leaders and managers because it gives us a way to think about our thinking. So many times we just ruminate, we think and we're not really sure how to put those thoughts into order. So radical candor is a mental model that just kind of snaps things into order for us. Radical candor was discovered and invented by Kim Scott. So please pick up this book. She's got a paperback as well. Same book. So two different titles, but same book. Fascinating how she did that. But I love this mental model. So I'm going to walk you through it, and then we'll talk a little bit about application in some of the other videos. So first of all, Kim says that in order to be a kick-ass boss, and those are the words she uses, so I just love it, in order to be a kick-ass boss, it really takes two ingredients. And she has lots of great stories and examples in her book, so please pick it up. But the first ingredient is that you must care personally for the people that you lead and manage. It's not giving you a license to go get creepily into their business, but at their human level, you need to care personally. Now, I'm an EOS implementer, and one thing we know in EOS that we practice all the time is that in order for EOS to really work in your company, you must love human beings. So this really works well for you who are running on EOS. The second ingredient is that you must speak directly. Now, the words we use in EOS for this all the time is open and honest, enter the danger. Just come out right with it and say it. One of my colleagues loves to use the phrase, say it in one sentence and make it hurt. So we just need to say what is on our mind. And then with these two ingredients, Kim has put together 4 different quadrants for just a way to think about your thinking. Not to label you as a different kind of or type of boss, but to just help you be aware of where you're coming from in that one moment. She's very clear that all of us operate in all 4 quadrants most of the time. What we're really trying to get to is this quadrant. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's start with this first quadrant. Those times when you care personally for your people, but you just don't say what needs to be said, so you're not speaking directly. Kim calls this ruinous empathy. Ruinous empathy. It's those times when you feel sorry for the person, so you just don't want to say anything. You're afraid the feedback, the speaking directly might hurt their feelings. It might hurt your feelings. You maybe don't feel courageous enough to really step into having that conversation. Maybe you're just freaking tired and you don't go have that conversation. It's that empathy that you have for your people. But adding this word ruinous, because when we're operating from this quadrant, we're really not helping our people grow. In fact, I love the word she chose right here because it's actually ruining them. Imagine if you're not giving the feedback that this person needs, they're going along their day, growing throughout their careers, not having the feedback they need. They're not really growing in the way that they could be growing if they got that really great feedback from you. So going over here to this quadrant then, when you both care personally and speak directly, this is what she calls radical, well, that was a crazy D, candor. Radical because it's just not happening as a normal course of business. I like to say radical because we need to put intention into getting there. As we talk about the other quadrants, you might find that you naturally fall into one of these, but radical candor takes intention and skill. And that's what we're learning here in all of these accountability activator videos, is that how to have that intention and build that skill. Candor is more than just being open and honest, and she goes into a whole great description in the book. But candor also means you are asking your people to have candor with you also. So it's a two-way street, absolutely, where you create this environment where everybody is caring personally and speaking directly for each other in the company. Again, all of the videos really help you to be into this quadrant. So, go ahead and pick up some more of these videos. Now, down here in this quadrant, this is where you don't care personally for people. They're just really a number to you, a dime or dozen, and you don't speak directly either. It's almost as if you just don't really care enough to speak the truth to them. She calls this manipulative insincerity. Two very long words. Manipulative insincerity. Manipulative because you're playing a game with people. You're doing the if-then scenarios, and you're just really trying to get your own way. Insincerity, you're not addressing the real issue. You're just really trying to put some Band-Aids on this. I was teaching this in a workshop a couple of days ago, and one of the women raised her hand and she says, "Oh, we had an actual name for this when I worked at this big bureaucratic company." She said, "We called it pass the lemon." When there was somebody underperforming in her department, all she would do is transfer them to another department. And so it was manipulative. Nobody was really having a conversation with that person. Insincere. We didn't really care about who thought what. It was just pass the lemon into a different department. So we find this a lot in the bureaucracies. They're managing with paperwork, managing with checklists, and not really having conversations. I tend to not find this very much in the companies that I work with. I think it's probably because we do love humans. I don't find a lot of leaders naturally falling here. Now, the fourth quadrant is where you don't care personally, but you do speak directly. Now, Kim calls this obnoxious aggression, but in one of her very first TED Talks, she called this quadrant something funny, and I like to keep it. She says, if you don't care personally and you're speaking directly, you're just an ass. So we're going to go with that title right here. You're just an ass. I have a very good friend who, unfortunately, is just an ass. She asked me one day, she said, "Hey, you do something, all day with like leadership stuff, or you're working with people for leadership." Yes, that's kind of what I do. And she said she had been passed over for a promotion several times because she didn't have what they were calling executive presence. And so I asked her a few questions, and when it really came down to it, when I showed her this quadrant, she says, "Oh yeah, I'm an ass." And so we worked a little bit together, and she got promotions, and now she's doing really well, not just because of my coaching, but because because of the book as well. So if you are an ass, self-proclaimed, you can raise your hand. But usually what I like to do at this point is I just would like you to take some self-reflection and ask yourself, where do you naturally fall? Where is your natural propensity to go? If you had no skills, if you just had, if you were free to be yourself, we say sometimes when we're talking about the Kolbe profile, if you were free to be yourself, where would you fall? So for example, I fall here. I don't like to hurt people's feelings. I would much rather just go about life and laugh and giggle and have fun. I don't really want to enter the danger and have those tough conversations. But what I have learned is that when I will just gain some skills for speaking directly to people, knowing that I'm truly helping them, then I can live right here in radical candor just a little bit more. Really hard to live in radical candor every single moment of the day. In fact, if you could just live there 1% more each day, that would be great. So that's where I naturally fall. But watch this. If you naturally fall here, because I also have lots of clients who will say, "Oh my gosh, I'm just an ass." If you naturally fall here, there's also really good news for you. All you really need to do in this mental model is just increase your caring personally for your people. And it's been my experience through coaching people that it's a lot easier to go from being an ass to radical candor than it is from being in ruinous empathy to radical candor. This carries a whole bunch of psychological weight with it, whereas sometimes adding those caring personally skills just comes a little bit easier. So that's a nice little overview of the mental model. One of my favorites, again, radical candor.